So I wanted to talk about software licenses and perpetual versus subscription, right? So I've been working on a little notepad here, coming up with some ideas to talk about. What are my thoughts about Adobe versus Affinity, which is by Serif, after Canva acquired Serif? And are you worried about that? Because I am a little bit. Let me explain. I've been using Affinity for years, and I've been very happy with it. Even when I was working professionally as a user experience designer, I used Affinity Designer quite a bit. This was before Figma even came out. I decided not to get on the Adobe hamster wheel when they dropped perpetual licenses way back. I just couldn't justify spending $50 a month on tools that I just didn't use that often. I mean, even then they offered like a $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom. Now that's $20 a month. So, you're talking $240 a year just for that. If you're new to this channel, my name's Jackie, and I do videos about photography, videography, and tech gear. Stick around if you like those topics. A little more on why I can speak to this subject. I started coding like 40 years ago. You're talking about DOS and DBase 2. So I've been around a while and I've seen quite a few things. I owned a software company in the 90s and I owned an e-commerce business in the 2000s. I've had maybe 20 years experience there running two businesses. So today, Affinity Photo works great for me as a casual photographer, and I use Capture One for my catalog and for exporting my raw files, tweaking them, editing them. I really like that. I use Affinity Photo for doing my thumbnails and just doing quick edits on photos and things like that. So why I think Perpetual is better, a perpetual license, right? So what is that? It's a license that you pay one time, you use it, and you get to keep using it as long as you want. Well, there's a caveat with that, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. But for the most part, that's the gist of it. A subscription is you pay for it every month or every year, you get to use it. When you stop paying for it, you can't use it anymore. For somebody like me that's retired now and still has a big photo catalog and lots of projects I'm working on, just on a personal level, I still want to be able to use my tools. So for me, Affinity was the better choice. And, I paid for those tools and I bought the version 2 and I have those. So I'm really happy with that. I've never used Canva. This is a more recent thing. So I was a bit surprised when Canva bought Affinity, although in hindsight, if you really look at it, you kind of can figure out why that might happen. It goes back to when I had my software company in the 90s. Windows was just coming out, and I remember mine was all written in DOS, operating system, so it was not a Windows operating system. And that meant that I was using Fox Pro, it was called. You had to rewrite the entire application from scratch, and I had several modules that I had built and was selling to work in Windows. I ended up selling it to a competitor because it was going to be cost prohibitive to rewrite everything from scratch. It was just easier to merge my installed base with theirs. They were already working on a Windows version. This comes up now when you think about Affinity and you think about AI and where things are going, and you could see where the perpetual model and the AI don't necessarily jive very well together because they're going to require an internet connection to do all kinds of things like the generative fill and being able to say, please take out the power lines in my photo. I can imagine things like this being the future of where this goes. So I can think that that is not necessarily where things are heading for Affinity. But why do I think perpetual licenses are better in the end? And I do think they're better. One is you're paying for technology improvements after they've been created and you buy that version. instead of paying for it before, where you're on a subscription and you hope they come out with these updates that you want, and you're hanging on hoping that they do. It incentivizes companies to improve when you're on a perpetual license, but it also kind of promotes a little bit of laziness and incremental updating when you're on a subscription, because where are you going to go? You're already in the ecosystem. You've got muscle memory on all of the tools you're using. It's a big effort, especially when you're doing it professionally and you're earning money from this, right? So the other thing is, it can lower the cost for those who don't need the latest and the greatest updates. A perpetual license, you might be able to use it for 3 years and just pay a one-time price for it. That's one thing. The other thing is you've got people maybe who are concerned about privacy and security and don't want all of their stuff up in the cloud. A perpetual license kind of gives you that ability to, shut off the internet and still work with the program on your computer. You also get to continue to use it until technology makes it obsolete. So perpetual doesn't mean forever. It just means within the window of time that technology is compatible. In a way, you're still paying for, there's a monthly cost to using software no matter how you cut it, right? So whether it's perpetual or subscription. The nice thing is with the perpetual, like for somebody like me in my position where I am right now is, I don't want to keep paying monthly for something I'm going to use occasionally in my retirement. No, I don't want to do that. Or for something I'm using to make YouTube thumbnails and things like that. No. So for me, this is better. The other thing is it just provides choice, right? So it's better for the users. You can choose when and if you want to upgrade, if you want to get the next version or stick with the version a little bit longer that you're currently using. So then you've got these hybrid perpetual models, like, say, for example, like your Apple iPhone, right? So you've got your phone, and it's a piece of hardware that you've paid for. One way or the other, you've paid for it. But you get software updates for free. Even if you don't get a new phone, you typically get the new operating systems for the phone. Again, as long as technology allows, right? At some point, the phone no longer is viable for an operating system, and then they drop support for that. There's an end to everything with this. The other thing is that you can have a subscription that when you stop using it, it freezes the version and you can't get any more updates for it, but you can still use it. And I think Classic Lightroom is like that, although I haven't ever used Lightroom, so I can't say. I use Capture One Pro, and I bought the perpetual license for that. It should last me for a couple of years at least, maybe 3 years. Again, if you break it out by the month, and I get the next upgrade to that in a couple of years, I'm probably paying close to what a monthly subscription would be. But I like the fact that I have the choice of not updating unless I really need to or want to. I'm not being forced to do it. And that I can keep using it as long as the technology will permit. I also bought DaVinci Resolve, and I kind of think that was probably premature. My editing is not that sophisticated where I really need DaVinci Resolve Pro version. I thought that I needed it for transcriptions, to automatically do transcriptions, but YouTube does that pretty well, and then I just go in and clean it up a little bit. I think I could have gotten away with the free version of DaVinci Resolve for a while, but needless to say, I did buy it and I have it. So my question is, what are your thoughts on perpetual versus subscription? And keep in mind, based on what your needs are. So if you're working professionally, I'm sure this is going to be a different story than for somebody like me, or maybe a student, or somebody who has a limited budget or doesn't use it very much or isn't earning income from it. So that might be a little bit different. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on perpetual licenses versus subscriptions. I opted not to stay on the Adobe hamster wheel, like I said, and just opted to get off that train when the perpetual license ended. And I think for me, that was the right decision. What are your thoughts on AI? And do you think that AI in the end is just going to have to be a subscription model, no matter what software is using it. It's going to need to access the internet. You're going to have to pay for the number of times you're accessing those servers. I think that does matter. Does AI play a part in all of this? Is it worth considering for like generative fill? Would Photoshop be a better option to pay the subscription if you wanted to use those AI features? I'm curious what people think about that. Affinity has a deal. They're doing a 6-month free trial, which is unheard of. No credit card. They say on there you don't have to enter a credit card. I haven't tried it, but I own all of the Affinity licenses, so it's not of interest to me. I'm not an affiliate. They don't even have an affiliate program. But the thing is you can try it out for 6 months, and I think that's pretty good. Or you can buy it for 50% off, and I think that's another really good deal. But again, it begs the question: why are they doing that? Why is Canva now doing a push like this to get users into their ecosystem? I'm a little hesitant to guess, but I'm wondering, is the subscription model not far behind? I realize they made a pledge that there'll always be a perpetual license for Affinity, and so that makes me wonder, maybe the AI isn't going to come into Affinity at all, but they're going to take things from Affinity and roll them into Canva. Time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on this topic, what software you're currently using. So drop it down in the comments and let us all know. Maybe we can have a discussion about it. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.